On today's World Insight, 100-day countdown to the Beijing 2022 Winter Olympics. Full steam ahead? And the butterfly on ice. China's very first figure skating Olympic medalist, Chen Lu, talks about preparations and the creativity that go into her routines.
Here's our host, Tian Wei.
Hello and welcome to World Insight. I'm Tian Wei. The countdown has begun with less than 100 days until the Winter Olympic kicks off in Beijing, February next year. This week, people around the world mark the start of the countdown. Beijing will be the first city to host both the Summer and the Winter Games. Amid the excitement, careful preparations are underway to welcome thousands of athletes and personnel while the city battles sporadic COVID cases. For more on the lead up to the Games, let's loop in our panelists. For the Winter Olympics and the related topics, we're joined in London, Ian Findlay, winter sports commentator. In Beijing, Paul Dong, co-founder of EI Asia. Welcome to those of you gentlemen. Good to see you, Ian. I'm sure you are aware that China is busy preparing for the Winter Games, even though under a very different circumstance today.
Yes, absolutely. It's less than 100 days to go until the Winter Olympics, and I think people all over the world are really excited about it and looking forward to it. There's obviously, with COVID, some challenges around, but I think a great games will be delivered.
Yeah, I love your optimism. Many here in China also needs to have that as well. And I also love the medals that you're hanging on the walls as background. Where were they from?
Yes, they're from cycling and running, just charity events. Sadly, no Olympic medals in my family.
And Paul, what about for you? You know, you were a veteran. 2008, I remember dearly the days we spent in the studio covering the 2008 Beijing Olympic Games, summer.
Right. So many memories for us to share together, and also with my friends and relatives. But I like to point it out that, as at least myself, I see it, that 2022, Beijing 2022, would not only be a sequel to 2008, it also marks a completely different stage for China, from the country to the population, a very, very different state of development now.
What do you mean?
I mean, back in 2008, people were fascinated, so crazy about it, without any clear idea what it would mean to their life. And now people are much more on the ground and try to calculate, you know, after we fulfill the promises to put together a world-class, top-level Olympics. And then after the Olympics is over, what that will mean to our life and to our economy. I think that's very down-to-earth question.
Yeah, both Beijing and London, where you are, Ian, hosted the Olympic Games. It is a transformation for China, for example. Many were even saying that, you know, if you name the three biggest things for China, modern time, but contemporary time over the past few decades, China-U.S. relations, established diplomatic relations with the United States, and, you know, China's entry into the WTO and possibly the Summer Games of the Olympic Games. It's a come-out party for China. But this time it's going to be different because it is also fighting against the pandemic at the same time. Of course, the zero tolerance in China is a very unique system. How do you see, you know, earlier Tokyo dealt with it, and how do you see the expectation for China, for Beijing to deal with it?
I think there's a lot of pressure on China to deliver spectacular games. Tokyo was very challenging for Summer Olympics and no spectators, which I think is a shame. It means the atmosphere and that sort of magic that you can get at an Olympic Games is lost. But as I understand it, there will be spectators at Beijing 2022. Local population will be allowed to have tickets. I think that's that's really good for the Olympics, for the athletes, and for China. With the protocols that have been put in place for the athletes, support staff, and media, and everyone connected with the games, I think they're very strong. And whilst you can't control everything, but I think they will deliver a safe games.
We can't hide away from the fact that there is a real challenge of the pandemic, Paul. As far as we know, there are information coming out about how it works. There will be bubbles in which, the overseas guests, together with athletes, the delegations, they will be in this bubble. So they will be able to go to the stadiums, go to the Olympic Village, going to some of the related facilities, but they are not going to be in direct contact with the Chinese locals. Unless when they are in the stadium, that's another story. However, for those Chinese that are working for the games, eventually after all the international delegation left, they are going to be quarantined 14+7, probably even more. So how do you see this system work? And do you think the locals will also feel the festive atmosphere?
Well, I really hope so. I think the atmosphere is now gradually building up, and it's in a faster pace after the beginning of the countdown, 100-day countdown. Absolutely. But some people are a little bit nervous about the recent and ongoing surge of some infection cases. But based on my own reading, I follow Tokyo very, very closely. I don't know how many people in China, like me, compared in details.
What did you find?
I understand that basically experts are very confident that Beijing will be able to contain it.
Okay, that's certainly good news. Let's talk about the sports categories themselves. China is not necessarily a strong nation in terms of winter sports, but it is on the way to learn. And this is going to be a great momentum for many Chinese, the 300 million to get into that sport. That was the original goal. So Ian, of course, winter sports, takes a much different circumstances, environment compared to summer sports. Tell me more about how do you guys in Europe are developing that love for winter sports, and how do you see the prospect for China?
Well, I think China is strong in particular disciplines. My area of expertise is skiing and snowboarding, particularly snowboard halfpipe and snowboard slopestyle and skiing aerials. China is very strong. There's been world champions. There's a young snowboarder done a world first trick that's never been done before just in the past week, and multiple Olympic and World Championship, World Cup medals in aerials. So there are pockets of very, very strong Chinese performance. And I think the Chinese public should be really excited about what is going to come at Beijing 2022 from the Chinese performances. In terms of developing it, it takes a long time. Culturally, there maybe isn't the culture of winter sports in China that we have in Europe. In Europe, particularly the big alpine nations, Austria, France, Switzerland, Germany, Italy, if you live near the mountains, which many of the people do in those countries, you pop skis or snowboards on from a very young age. It is part of what you do. The local ski or snowboard club is the equivalent of the local soccer team or gymnastics club. So culturally, it's ingrained in the population. And I think that will take time in China, but the population base is there. The facilities are coming. There needs to be investment in good coaching from a young age, and lots of exposure for young people to a mountain environment. And over time, the talent will come through. Absolutely,
but it's already picking up, isn't it, Paul?
Right. Let me take you back to the bigger picture a little bit, Tianwei, because if you remember that in 2008, when we were together, when you were hosting the live shows right next to the bird's nest, that represent the end of the first half, if you like. First half means that before 2008, over several decades, China gradually built up its prowess in modern summer sports. And before 2008, China was already a major power, winning a lot of medals. And China, Beijing, and other cities have been experienced hosting some very high-level international summer sports competitions.
Right.
But after several years, maybe more than 10 years, 13 years, of long pause, and now the Beijing Winter Olympics marks the beginning of a new process that China will start from a very low level compared to the top 10 most developed nations in winter sports in the world. China is not inside the top 10 now, but we are hoping that after the Winter Games in 2022, China will start this journey of building more prowess in winter sports. So they are very, very different in terms of significance.
Right. And it's just not just about one country, spearheading into the top 10. It's really about being a good host, isn't it? Particularly amid the pandemic, when a lot of things are quite down, but it really could pick up people's spirit. I remember watching the Tokyo Games, no matter how difficult it has been amid the pandemic, after you're watching the best athletes performing with their best on the court, it just lift everybody up. It's a very different feeling, Ian. I'm sure as a commentator, you understand 100% and probably 200%.
Yeah, I was broadcasting on Tokyo 2020 as well, and we shared in some of those moments, and particularly the men's high jump where the gold medal was shared was just a really uplifting moment. And I think with winter sports, there's in many ways, I'm quite biased because I'm a winter sports person, that they are so spectacular.
Ian Finlay, Paul Dong, thank you so much. Looking forward to watching the games with both of you and many more around the world. Thank you.